Welcome to Checks and Balances. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair, an off-brand James Blair in a button-up polo. And this week we are reviewing the best-selling finance book, The Barefoot Investor.
So, for those listening to the audio, let me describe it. It is a long-sleeve polo shirt buttoned up. I'm just a trendsetter. I don't know why the hate for, yes, I'm not in a t-shirt, but some people just look better. I mean, can't hate.
Yeah, let's skip.
So let's move on to the podcast for the day, The Barefoot Investor. Quite a few of my clients have read the book. I've read the book. We've both read the book. Mike, you kind of went through it in preparation for this podcast, so really keen to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, look, some of the terms are a little bit lame, but the fundamentals are there. We definitely differ at a couple of points. But again, if you are reading about this stuff, if you are getting involved in your finances and making active choices, I am a fan of that, so I can't fault it for that.
Yeah, it's not going to be an emotional roller coaster like Twilight, but it will set you up for the rest of your financial future.
Absolutely.
So the book, The Barefoot Investor, which is an Australian-based book all around kind of how to manage your money and good foundations around your finances, is broken up into 3 key sections.
Yep.
Plant, which is around setting good foundations around your money. Growing your wealth, which is about buying your first home and then growing your wealth. And then harvest, which is all about having a stress-free retirement. Now, we're going to do this in a 2-part episode. Today's just focusing all around the foundations of good money. If you want to see part 2, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. Mike, side little stat for you, 77% of our those that watch on YouTube aren't subscribed. How does that make you feel?
Well, it means they're just coming back for the polo, mate. How good.
I tell you what, if numbers spike, you know it's the polo. So before we jump into the podcast, there's this really good start to the book that I want to read through, which is, are you an alpaca or are you a groundhog? So alpacas are fierce go-getters who will take the bull by the horns and do whatever it takes to be successful and better themselves. They'll work their butt off to pay off the debts, they'll buy a cheaper car if the current one is too expensive to run, and they'll have no qualms in cancelling their Foxtel or Sky if it doesn't get used enough. Alpacas take full responsibility for their financial situation and will get ahead whatever it takes. Groundhogs, on the other hand, they sit back. They complain about the way things are, but never actually do anything to bring change. They're full of excuses. I don't earn enough money. I don't understand budgeting. The cost of living is too high. I will point out this book was not written in 2022 because I know that's a particularly contentious point with the cost of cucumbers and cauliflowers in the supermarket at the moment. But hey, we've got Costco now. Groundhogs want the magic solution without having to do any of the work. They want that kind of silver bullet meme stock. They take no responsibility for their financial situation, and the reality is they'll just never get ahead. So the question, are you an alpaca or a groundhog? The fact that you're reading this post, the fact that you're watching or listening to this podcast most likely means you are an alpaca because you are taking the time to think about your money. The answer, though, most people are groundhogs. So let's all be alpacas together. So jumping straight into the book, the first part is around plant, which is obviously the metaphor around like growing a tree, good soil, good seeds, good sunlight, good water, and then you can easily draw analogies around money and finances.
Yep, good micronutrient sort of fertilizer.
Micronutrient
fertilizer. Yep. Nice NPK ratio.
Yeah.
Shout out to my botanically inclined finance brothers.
It's a small subset of our small audience. So there is the concept of date nights around the whole book in The Barefoot Investor. And the idea, one, is that you communicate with your partner around money and create an environment that it's easy to do, and you have an agenda at a date night, because who doesn't love a nice agenda at a date night?
You know what I love.
Yeah. And then to kind of work through a topic in each of the dates. And you enjoy yourself, you go out for a nice dinner, because the idea is if you set good foundations, splurging on the odd meal does not matter.
Absolutely. And one more thing, if you're single, I don't know, have a date night with yourself or something, write it down.
He does tackle that.
Nice.
Or 2 single people could go together, and that could be the interview to whether they're a good match or not. Let's talk about our bank accounts, baby. So date night number 1, setting up your bank accounts. Mike, what's on the menu tonight?
Yeah, cool. So we've talked about this a few times on our budgeting episodes and financial plans and these sorts of things. But a key component of budgeting and getting your finance sorted is having the individual bank accounts allocated for the individual things. So we've got the daily expenses bank account. Very self-explanatory. This is your power, water, phone, necessities, everything you need to just run your day-to-day life. Obviously, you need to do the math of, I guess, how much is in there.
It's so important. Like, it can very easily be skipped over this as a step, but you need to know what percentage of your income just goes towards the moment and just living before fun and achieving your goal.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the percentages for all of these different bank accounts in a bit, but for the moment, we'll just cover the fundamentals. Second bank account, you've got splurge. Again, this is to have a bit of fun. We've said it before, if you're just eating chicken and broccoli and rice all the time, yeah, you'll do it. Eventually, you'll blow out. You've got to have a little bit of fun in there. We've got the Smile account. So this is something that we haven't covered before in our budgeting and planning episodes. This is about budgeting for those short to medium term goals. So not retirement, not a long way off. This is something you can see in the distance in your savings for holidays, cars, these sorts of things. The thing he is doing here is keeping you away from short-term debt, which he is very big on. So we've also got a fire extinguisher account. Now this ties into that because this is about saving to pay off those short-term debts. This isn't the emergency fund account. This is just allocated towards the short-term debt and paying them off. If you don't have any short-term debts to start off with, you're quite good at managing your money already. You can save in this account for a house deposit or pay off your mortgage faster or something like that. You've then got a Mojo account. Now, this is what we call our emergency fund account. This is the account you have at the other bank, away from your spending accounts, away from your savings account. This is just break glass if something goes wrong. Now, he recommends that you start off with $2,000 in this account, but aren't regularly contributing at the start.
So, the term Mojo. It's more fun than just emergency fund. The idea about the Mojo account is when you are walking down the street, how do you walk down the street? Do you walk down the street with your shoulders slumped, worried, oh, what was that? Is something going to get me? Is my car going to break? Is my laptop going to break? Or do you go shoulders back, strutting down the street, kind of pointing to people as you go down the street? You got mojo in your step because whatever happens in life, Mike, I'm going to be okay.
Unless it's a $3,000 expense. Yeah.
$2,001. Yeah. Oh, no. So that is the terminology of the Mojo account. Now, Mike, you're saying $2,000 in the account. If I don't have $2,000, what do I do?
Yeah. So he actually recommends that you sell something in your house to get the money to put in that account. Now, this is where him and I differ slightly. I am an avid collector of things. I might label myself as sort of an indiscriminate collector. If you think I'm going to sell my framed Sumatran fighting beetle, my rock collection, any of my art, you are kidding yourself.
Yeah, you are a big Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fan. You're just a hoarder. Avid collector of things means you're a hoarder. There's a TV show for that. Maybe that can provide you with the passive income. Hopefully you've got $2,000 that can be your account that you can set up with.
Yeah.
But if you don't, he recommends, hey, find some stuff to sell. Hey, I know an overweight 13 kg pug that I'm pretty sure I can get $2,000 for. So Harry, not looking good for you. So the other thing with the accounts is he does talk a lot about zero fee accounts, talks specifically about banks in Australia. Mike, in New Zealand, what do the fees look like on bank accounts?
Yeah, so traditionally the fees on transactional accounts in Australia have been a lot more than the fees and a lot more regularly charged than the fees in New Zealand. That's kind of come back a little bit. But look, most banks, if you have an electronic account with a paper statement stopped, will be effectively zero regular fees.
So this paper statement thing, so I have gone and turned them off, yet I get trees delivered to my house weekly, and I'm like, you talk about being sustainable, you talk about these low interest loans so I can buy my EV. How about we stop sending off the trees to my house?
We've hired someone to manage our sustainability strategy. I'm like, why don't you just stop sending the paper statements that I've turned off? Yeah.
I know. So end of date night 1, your bank accounts are set up.
Oh, it was romantic.
That's all you need to do. I hope you enjoyed that little creme brulee to finish. Mike, what was your favorite?
Well, it's creme brulee, but let's keep going.
I'm a fancy guy. I didn't spend as much time in London.
Shout out to my roots in Parramatta.
It would be a Turkish kebab if I was showing out to my roots in Parramatta. So let's jump on to date night number 2. Yeah. Mike, what is on the menu tonight?
Oh, look, I've been looking forward to this date for a long time. It is superannuation.
Yeah. And we do take the piss a little bit out of these date nights just because it's a funny concept. But all of these things are very important to do and you should definitely make sure you're getting onto them. With superannuation, so in Australia, there's probably a little bit more complexity to superannuation. KiwiSaver in New Zealand is relatively straightforward. This is very important to do because KiwiSaver will be, for most Kiwis, probably your biggest asset come retirement. And I would say a third to a half of people haven't made an active choice of provider or fund.
Yeah, the other really key thing here is with your superannuation or your KiwiSaver in New Zealand, you can use it for your first home. So even though we're talking about it for retirement, if you're starting really young, make that active choice because it makes a really big difference when you are taking the deposit for your first home.
So the Barefoot Investor is very keen on low fees, which is a one way that some people like to invest. And the idea is that you keep your fees low because it's very hard to outperform the market.
Yeah.
So he talks about Googling your fund provider and then product disclosure statement, because this date is going to be a date you never forget, Mike. I'm going to bring up a little PDS chat over dessert and go straight to the fees section. If you're paying 0.85% or more in fees, he thinks you're paying too much.
Yeah, what do you think about that I mean, it's all different, but 0.85, what do you reckon?
It depends. If that's the rule, then it pretty much knocks out most active fund managers. Milford's funds have been some of the best performing providers since KiwiSaver's inception in 2007. And you might go, Simplicity is like a low fee solution that lines towards the Barefoot Investor. Milford is spanking Simplicity in terms of long-term returns at the moment. So it makes you think, it's not necessarily the right thing. It's probably more aligned to your values. What's important to you in terms of, do you want active management, low fee solutions, socially responsible, detailed reporting? What's important to you with a provider and a fund?
Yeah, you just got to remember also that past performance is not an indicator of future performance.
Definitely.
James.
No, everybody. Do not, Ravi, can we get flashing? This is not financial advice. Burp, burp, burp.
Yeah, we are just talking about general concepts here and his lay of the land. But again, it is not a long conversation. Sit down with a financial advisor, check sorted.org, make an active choice about your KiwiSaver.
Once again, you demean my job. It's not complicated. It's so easy. The most important part of this is, once again, KiwiSaver becoming one of your biggest assets come retirement. You should be making an active choice of providers, active choice of funds. The bottom line is you're going to be paying whoever's managing your KiwiSaver a lot of money over a long period of time. Decide who does it.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Somehow after the first 2, you've managed to get me to go on date night number 3. I don't know what you're promising me to keep me on the line, but I'm here.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about one of my favorite date night topics. It's insurance.
Yeah. So date night number 1, we had the creme brulee. Date night number 2, what was the dessert you went for?
Probably lemon tart, actually. Love a citrus dessert.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not a big dessert guy, so I love a bit of citrus in the dessert. Cuts through the sweetness.
Date night number 3, we're having a cheese board. So we're talking all about insurance. There's no analogy between insurances and cheese boards. I don't know. Maybe it's not sweet. So there's a few different rules when it comes to insurance in the Barefoot Investor book.
Yeah.
Rule number 1, only insure against things that will financially wipe you out. So the example of, I want insurance for my eyes or my GP with health insurance, that would fall outside of that kind of rule. You want to insure against fire, burglary, car accident, sickness, hospital visits, disability, and death.
Yep. Rule number 2 that he goes for, we're opting for the highest excesses or higher excesses. So opting for a higher excess, so the amount that you will pay when you claim out of your own pocket as opposed to the insurance company paying, will reduce your weekly, fortnightly, monthly, annual premiums. So it'll bring your regular cost of insurance down. Just another trick to lowering that cost.
And a higher excess, you might go, that might cost me $1,000 or something. The idea is, You hope your house never burns down. You hope you never get cancer and have to take 2 years off work. Obviously, you hope you're going to die at some point, hate to break it to you, but you hope you don't die before your time's due, which means the excess, you're saving some money, which can go towards different accounts.
One quick point there, which people often ask me, you just got to remember, you are not paying the excess out of your pocket. It gets deducted from the amount that is paid back to you. I know that seems like a really weird thing to point out, but I get asked that quite a bit.
So there's a couple of, rule number 3 is around negotiating your premiums annually. Now, Mike, if you came to me and was like, hey, James, I want 20% less on my income protection, it's probably going to be a relatively short conversation.
But James, I want 20% more on my returns in my fund.
Yeah. But the concept of not just like setting and forgetting with insurance is probably quite important.
Yeah.
So making sure that your provider's not taking the mickey with their annual premium increases, making sure that they're still the right provider for you in the market.
Yeah, so reviewing annually, every couple of years, maybe going out into the market, checking what's out there. Can you get a better deal? All of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So there's a couple of sub rules in here as well. Rule 3A, if you like, private health insurance. According to the Barefoot Investor, he thinks you do not need private health insurance if you're under 31, earn less than $90,000, or the family earns less than $90,000. Now, statistically might work out. The problem is what happens to you, something if you're young and you've got a pre-existing condition, say, something happened to your heart, or you got diabetes when you were younger, or whatever it might be, then you pretty much uninsurable in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the last part is income protection. He talks about, and this is when I always know when somebody's read the Barefoot Investor, talking about getting your life insurance and your income protection through your Australian superannuation. That's not available with KiwiSaver, so unfortunately you're just going to have to pay for it separately. So he recommends getting 75% of your income insured until the age of 65.
Cool.
So how was that cheese board, Mike?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm a cheap date.
Why?
I'm not.
Yeah. Fussy man's a lonely man.
Yeah.
So let's move on to, Mike, in date 1, you set up our bank accounts. We're now on to date 4, where we're working out the cost of our household expenses.
Yeah. So when we were working out the cost of our household expenses, this is one of those really important steps, like we sort of said, so you know how much you need to put in the expense account. But he sort of anticipates it's going to be about 60% of your income as your living expenses. That is going to differ depending on how much you earn. And we know the cost of living has been going up a lot recently. There's not a lot you can do about that, but you may be able to, I think when you have a look at it, you will notice if there is anything you can cut back on. A lot of people don't do this, and the cost of them just keeps going up, and you don't sort of realize, actually, I'm still having 3 coffees a day from the coffee shop down the street when I could just use an espresso.
It also is dependent on your income, right?
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Second account, the splurge account. This is the one where you get to spend whatever you like on. This is 10%. Yeah, makes sense. 10% in the smile account as well. So this is savings to go towards those short to medium term goals. We said holidays, cars, these sorts of things. And then 20% is going into that fire extinguisher account. So again, this isn't the emergency fund. This is the account that's helping you pay off those short-term debts, credit cards, afterpays, all of these sorts of things. If you don't have any, like we said, it's saving to go towards your house deposit or putting it on your mortgage to pay it down quicker.
Cool. So we have had 4 dates now, and what a time it has been. So date night number 1 has been setting up the bank accounts. Date night number 2, sorting out your superannuation, your KiwiSaver. Date night number 3, when you thought it couldn't get any more exciting, we talk about insurance. Date night number 4, we've kind of split our incomes and we've got automatic payments. The way we manage our money, each pay has got very easy. Now we're moving on to dominoing your debts, which is we've got good foundations. Now we're starting to take a bit of action. So Mike, run us through it.
So dominoing your dets, right? There's a few different dominoes to hit here, but most of his key points, look, credit card sucks, short-term debt sucks, stay away from it. It's, in some instances, predatory. People are like, oh, my air points, my hot points, yeah, great. There's no free lunch here. credit card companies and banks give away these things to entice you to spend more because it is a very profitable line of business for banks.
And for those who go, hey, I love my hot points or my air points, I can manage my money well done to you. You're just not in the majority. If you're the person that's got discipline, then that's great. But for the vast majority, either you're going to end up paying a lot of interest and really struggle to get out of it, which is why we're talking about dominoing your debt. Or the other thing people don't think about is even if you pay off the debt each month, you can be in a position where you spend more money. So because you're not spending your own money, you're spending somebody else's money, you end up allocating more towards the splurging, right?
100%. So domino 1 is about calculating, right? So write down your debt, the amount, the interest rate, the minimum repayments, all of these sorts of things. It is a really important point here that you get a handle on the debt and what it's costing you, how much you've got, and maybe how long you've got to take to pay it off. Domino number 2, negotiate. Now, look, if you've signed a contract for a personal loan, chances are you're not going to be able to go back and renegotiate an interest rate or a term on that personal loan. But, can you do a 0% balance transfer from credit card to credit card? Can you do a consolidation loan? Can you take a personal loan from a loan shop to a bank where you might get a slightly better interest rate? Something like this.
You should definitely be exploring your options, right? Like not everybody can move it around, but especially if you're at 20%, you should be investigating to see what you could do.
Yeah. So domino number 3, cut up your credit cards, close the short-term debt. Now, this is James's one of his highlights.
Instead of like
old Edward Scissorhands over here.
Yeah, cutting up credit cards left, right, and center.
Yeah, and look, having the facility there means you are more likely to use it. This is part of the where he dabbles into the psychology of finance, and I can't knock him at this. It is important to get rid of those facilities. Now, domino 4, detonate your debts. Now, he talks about this again from a psychological standpoint around finance as opposed to maybe the financial sort of fundamentals of finance, where he's saying pay the smallest debt off first, get the runs on the board, get the small wins. You know what? Traditionally, the advice is pay off the one with the highest interest rate first because it's costing you the most. That is sometimes the hardest thing to do because it looks like you're getting nowhere. So, he's going for psychology of finance versus the math. I can't knock him here because, if it works for you, then do it. I would rather that you did it that way than had a crack at it, saw that you weren't getting anywhere by paying the largest one off first and just did nothing.
Yeah, and personal finances isn't just about done on a spreadsheet, right? It's about what's up here in terms of how you think about it and how you feel about it.
Absolutely. His 5th point there is celebrate. So when the debt is gone, when that first debt is paid off, go out, take out a credit card, drop $4,000 at Jervois Steakhouse, take the boys out,
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe stay away from the tomahawk steaks.
Yeah. But you should celebrate a little bit and make sure you make a bit of a deal about it.
Yeah. And this is really important. And Mike, maybe on the first home buy side, you can touch on this. People like to jump straight to the let's buy my first house. Yeah. But it's very hard to achieve these goals until you get these foundations right and detonate those debts.
Oh, honestly, it slows people down when they're saving their deposit, is the first thing. And then the second thing is even if they don't have any owing money on these facilities, the limit that is sitting there is stopping you from being able to borrow more because the bank sort of calculates their loan amounts as if you have maxed out the card.
You could spend it.
Yeah, exactly. So just get rid of them.
Yep. Interesting side point he's made on debts. He goes, your car should be worth less than half of your salary and you should be paying for it in cash. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, well, I pay for mine in cash, so what is?
Cash money. I think is a really good shout that sometimes you talk to people and they go, hey, I've got a $50,000 car loan and you earn $70,000 and the first thing that goes through your head is...
You're never going to get out of this.
Oh, it's just not worth it. So we've got good foundations. We've planted ourselves for success in the future. So we've got the right bank account set up. We've set up the automatic payments, insurance, super, and our debts have now been knocked off. We're using that fire extinguisher account, channeling it all towards clearing those debts. And at the end of this episode, we've now got really good foundations. The next episode that we're going to run through is about how you grow your wealth and then how you harvest it so you can have a stress-free retirement. So if that sounds good to you, make sure to subscribe, give us a review, follow us so you can make sure you know when the next episode pops up. And we'll see you again soon.
Cheers.